Ladies and gentlemen, and I welcome you to the Voice of Youth podcast, where we deal with understanding the past and the present so that we can prepare for the future. Here we deal with business, politics, entrepreneurship, education, and all other aspects of society that where young people shape their realities and shape their futures. So today, on today's episode, we'll be dealing with understanding the role of arts in the liberation struggle. What did the arts contributed towards the liberation of Black people in Africa and also in South Africa? So as a matter of fact, or as a point of departure, I would say that the arts is a discipline that deals with the emotions and the experiences of people portrayed and filmed and also transmitted to people. By the arts, I mean music, dance, paintings, dancing, and all other talents and skills that people portray in society. And also it includes performing arts, television, documentaries, and literature, books, and poetry. Therefore, we must have to understand the importance of the arts in society. Number one, we can say the arts act as a mirror of society. The arts show us how people live every day, their pain, and their experiences. You'd see that by listening to the arts or looking at the arts, you can imagine the lived realities of our people because the arts are from emotions and experience. When someone produces music, his lyrics and the beats tell us how that particular person is feeling, and also it tells the messaging in which you have to, or the individual is telling to people. So now we're going to be dealing more deeply with the arts. We'll look at almost all the different aspects of the arts, different types of arts. For starters, I believe, let me start with the documentaries. The documentaries which were televised, and people would watch them and learn. Because the arts, I believe, it's an instrument which we can use to raise class consciousness. By saying raising class consciousness, I mean you educate people about their material conditions so that you know that material conditions are influenced by a number of issues, and those material conditions shape the ideas that one can have. Therefore, let's say it's the arts that educate, it act as a political education, because when most of us are dealing with understanding the apartheid era and colonization, we often focus more on political events, protests, boycotts, and any other source of liberation. Therefore, it is important that we understand it step by step so that we can get a deeper understanding of it. Which means it will be a combination of photography and cinematography and knowledge and experience. Meaning the other one will have to, the cameraman will have to show, put us in the moment through the videographies and the photos. Then the person whom they select to come and tell that story possesses an art of storytelling to tell us in deeper sense, put us in a moment where we have to uh, be there by meaning of being there. But in actual fact, we relate to the documentary as it is. Therefore, it requires the arts and as education. Meaning, if after you have watched the documentary, you must have a deeper understanding of that particular event and be able to give your own critique. Therefore, that particular sentiment shows us that the arts played a role and continue to play a role today through documentaries. Even recently, we just watched the documentary of Winnie Mandela. It shows us that the arts played a role in us understanding what happened during the apartheid regime. Mama Winnie's experience shows us a deeper sense of what it is. So it becomes more important when you deal with it, and it's more interesting and brings in a conversation that all of us need to engage in society and have those particular conversations. Hence, we decided to have this podcast because that's where we discuss and enjoy the privilege of having to talk without any censorship. Because during the apartheid regime governance, people were censored. Leaders were sentenced because they were talking. Leaders were sentenced because they were protesting and mobilizing people. But no matter how you oppress people, we can never oppress their ideas. Because their ideas, if they are portrayed through the arts, it will be able to grasp a more bigger moment of saying, okay, you can't stop the music from going around and circulating. So people will always hear the music and feel the love of the music, even if sometimes the words are not directly saying we are oppressed. But when you're listening to music, you can feel, oh, okay, no man, actually this person is speaking about the struggle, and then it's educating me about the participation that I needed. And you can think the arts, like for instance, in the music, when you when soldiers, let's say, for they were in exile in the camps, in the bushes and in the trenches, they would sing the famous song that we sing called uh, Oliver Tambo, Tetano Porter, Kululu Mandela. It shows that the soldiers, when they created this song, they knew, they believed in the capability of Oliver Tambo and Nelson Mandela to bring equality and justice and the democracy and the freedom that they want or they are fighting for. So so you could see that they had that belief, and people would sing it in exile, and also they would sing it when they are back at home. And even today we are still singing those particular songs when we are having Guijo sessions on campuses, when there are strikes, we still sing those songs because they resonate with us in the current struggle, because they are generational. Even I believe in the era of Shaka Zulu, you'd see where they sing. There are songs that they sing when they are at war, so that the unity of the soldiers and the morale of the soldiers can be reignited and empowered. So it shows us that, and those songs, one of the most important factors, that some of the songs were not planned. They were just sang by people who have talent in singing, but had the experience and the emotion, and they had to collaborate it with the struggle, and then at the later stage they became songs of the struggle. So it becomes very much important. So we need to say now, where do we locate the arts in every aspect of life? The arts are there in churches. When people are in pain, they sing before they pray. When there are funerals, they sing. So it shows the arts are there with us no matter where we go. In schools, before schools are running, there have to be an assembly where a song will be sang, mostly a hymn. So you see where it shows that before we can do anything, let's practice art, because art is important. When you practice the arts, when you sing before going to class, it shows that we are still together in song and in harmony, and we are fighting to change the society and to learn to bring us together as the people. So you can see the arts of music. So if I take you back into history, as early as like wo 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 Siotonga, and I don't know if the name I'm pronouncing it properly, but Bo Siotonga and Bo wo wo wo, they're the ones who wrote the national anthem. You can see, Igor, the music you're writing. Pela Siotonga was a reverend in a church. He wrote a song which says that uh, um, uh, uh, God, please come back and heal the world again. come and fulfill the promise that you've given to us. You can see the people who wrote Inkosi Singelele, they pioneered. That was a use of talent and words and experience. It shows Nkosi, please come and liberate your people. And and it was had to be diverse to understand that South Africa is a diverse ethnically and culturally. So when you include the languages, it is a form of art and becomes even more important. And let me just go to the paintings to say that when you see a painting on a wall in a public space where you see a black person crying, kneeling on the ground, and a white person holding a gun, shooting. And that sentiment shows, or the painter, the artist who painted this picture, had in mind and in experience and in emotion that I am being oppressed. And I have to tell the oppressor that he is oppressing me. You both tell the oppressor and the oppressed that oppression is happening. Because when people are not aware that they are being oppressed, they think things are normal. When you think that being oppressed is the normal thing, maybe a white person is more superior than a black person everywhere. So you see it as a norm. But when you see it being portrayed, you have a deeper understanding that I am a human being. I'm not just black, I'm an African human being, and I belong to the human race. Therefore, when you see it every day, even going to school, when you see that painting every day, then you start to question yourself and say, why did this person not draw a flower here? Why did he not draw a car? Why did he not draw something beautiful and color it with colorful? Why did he have to draw burning tires? It shows you that there is a consciousness that is happening. They are raising your consciousness to understand that the revolution is happening and you have to participate. Therefore, the paintings played a lot of role, even photography. When a person takes a photo of June 16, the people who took the photos of June 16 tell you that they didn't just want to take any picture. They wanted the true reflection of how June 16 was. It is through photography, therefore, we can have both Sarafina. That particular picture of Sarah, of how Sarafina is acted, it shows that there was a photographer who took the image of June 16, and it is a true reflection of what happened. Therefore, the crafting of Sarafina becomes more and more and more unique, and it shows you that talent and the arts and feelings are portrayed there. And recently, there is a recent movie, this was shot in the University of the North, where we call the barrel of a gun, studying under the barrel of a gun. You can see that Ernest Koza, in that book, when he wrote that book, the titling of the book was artistic and spiritual. You say studying under the barrel of a gun. It shows you that during that particular time, students would have to study while they were supervised by soldiers. A soldier, I believe, sometimes it is a different creature whom has a solemn responsibility to protect a constitution at a time, and the people he sees, he's commanded, he acts out of command. So you can see at a time when we are studying as a black child in a black university, you are segregated, you are not in Wits, you are not in UCT, you are in Teflop, and you know the education of Wits, or you know how white suburbs looks like. The only thing when you have experienced is just being black and being in a poor society. You went to school which has dilapidated, it's a mud school. You went to university where there is no mixer. You are mixed with blacks only, there's no whites. The only whites you see are your lecturers, meaning you only see a white person as a superior to you. But when it comes to studying, now you have to study and better your life, you study under the barrel of a can. Therefore, Ernest Koza, when he wrote that book, you can show his artistic understanding and his experience. And but by the way, he was the president of the campus, but you can see how he used the arts as a form of literature to tell us that This is what happens. Then that particular book of his then related with one of the best movies to ever been produced, called the very same, named after the very same book, starring under the banner of a gun. So you watch that movie, you can see where the people who pioneered the movie are, are, are well aware of the experience at the time. So the arts are very much important, and not only like that, but the arts, we can trace them back in history. You can see that Africa was civilized, and most people, they say that Africa was not civilized until the whites arrived here. There was civilization in Africa. So through knowledge system transformation and transmission was done through the arts. When people could sing to educate, could sing to pray. When they were farming, they used to sing when they are farming and doing the crops there, so that they can prepare one another for a wonderful thing that will come next. You know, when you sing, you are plotting maize meal, and then you are singing for the maize meal. You are praying for it to grow. It shows that you connect the spirit, your spirit and your emotions with the plants. Then when they grow, you sing and you celebrate and you thank for the rain. So it shows that in history, the arts have always been part of us, because you know the hunters, the egalitarian hunters, were whom they were hunting and using the blood and the mixtures to paint on the rocks. Even today, if you go to the rocks, they are still painted. Their paintings never go away. Therefore, that shows they had a method to understanding that how can we mix this thing to be a permanent thing. They had science and understanding through the art. So when you paint on the wall, you paint the animals you worship, the places you have been, like how you used to dress. It shows that you are living information. It's a transmission of information through using art, and it's important for us to deal with it. So it shows you that in Africa, and there were also knowledge transferring mechanisms through folklores. So the folklores, when you're sitting around the fire, your grandmother is it's telling you a story. That story, it becomes knowledge. That story becomes how you behave in the future. It acts as a torch for your future. So when doing that, he has to understand and be selective in nature to say, this thing that I'm telling these young children must grow them and must instill the values of our society. So storytelling had to be an art. No, not everyone was supposed to tell a story. A story had people who had the talent of telling a story, where people would learn from that particular storytelling. So that particular thing shows you that the arts are important. So I believe me and you are engaging in the arts, even though in modern form. The way we dress, the way we dance, the events, the kind of events we do, those are arts. The creation of Lukombo as a culture in Limpopo shows you that anything, the arts can bring people together, because now everyone in Limpopo is united under the comp. When you play the compo song, no matter where you are in the country. I remember sometime now Drake released this albums. There was a trend on TikTok to say, okay, no man, did you guys listen to Drake's album? They said, nah. Till now we don't listen to Drake, to listen to the comp. That shows you, no man, these people are united in another way, because they support the music that they create, and they live with that. Because, and if you listen to most of Lukompo songs, you'd see the ones that are more trending, they talk about pain, they talk about suffering, they talk about unemployment, they talk about all the things. It shows though that the producers of Lukombo, they are members of society, and they experience the pain that society continue to explain. Then it calls us to say, okay, then what should happen? We have an important question to answer here. Then what has to happen? Then what are we doing as artists now to say, here is the struggle that we are facing. There's unemployment in the country. There is an issue of illegal immigration. There are many things, gender-based violence. You see lack of accessibility into universities, and also the type of education which is given to us. Is it decolonized or colonized? And whose interests are they serving? So it's a struggle that we have to engage and define it. And it needs artists to play their role. You need musicians who portray the revolution as it is. And that one requires us to say now, if you produce music, I'm not saying you shouldn't produce music about other things, but your music must reflect society. And I believe artists are doing that now. If you listen to how Kabza the Small marries the struggles of people with the arts, you can see that we have a real growing a movement that young people start to realize their material conditions. That is music. And they see the need for unity through events, when they attend events to listen to music, when they have to wear dresses properly, when they have to dress, you see how they dress. It shows you that there is a sophistication and an understanding of the realities that they face. So now, let's talk about, to say, what is to be done. By the way, in the recent history, like Zahara released this one of my favorite songs called Not Yet Uhuru. When he said it is not yet Uhuru when people are still living in shacks, then I believe that, to say that yes, it's important. Why is it Uhuru when people are still living in shacks? We cannot say the struggle has ended when people are, 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 are still living in shacks. People do not have water. We as young people can't access universities, but we qualify due to space. So why is it Uhuru now? Why are we relaxing? Why do we take music as entertainment? It mustn't be an entertainment. Music must be an education. It must raise our consciousness about the material conditions, because material conditions always shape ideas that we have. Ideas are shaped by material conditions. What you experience today will influence your ideas. So I believe it's important for us as young people to never reject the revolution. As young people, it is important to never reject the revolution. To say, me, I will never participate in organizational things, in politics per se. You are rejecting your generational mandate. To say you must safeguard your future and you must fight for it. So when you say, Mina, I'm not going to be participating in voting or whatever, you're basically just saying, my role is, I'm neglecting my responsibilities of being an active citizen which fights for what is right, which protects the democracy in which the youth before him or her have fought for. Because the youth have been in the forefront of the revolution, and from the ANC, when it was formed, it was this diplomatic organization, as they say. Then they came the generation of Mandela and Sisulu. When they arrived there, they radicalized the ANC and they made it an organization which is radical and pushes for greater things, and in approach was radical. So the introduction of the Freedom Charter, those particular incidents, the formation of the military wing of the ANC, those were ideas which the youth and young people, even June 16 was young people, even Steve Biko, when you conscientize society, telling us that being black is not a matter of pigmentation, but a mental attitude. So he taught that particular sentiment as a young person. As a student, he portrayed that particular message. Josephine Mushovan and all other people, they were young people when they agitated, and their contribution even today is still signified. When you walk everywhere, you still hear their names, Bo Hector Peterson. If Hector Peterson was not part of the June 16th strike, he was not going to be talked about. But because he was there and he participated and made his role, we can celebrate him. Then we have to ask ourselves, Lex, what is going to be celebrated of me when I'm no longer here? Meaning we have to live for purpose, and for purpose means you have to contribute and participate in society. Most importantly, you must use your talent at the disposal of the people. Meaning, when you are talented, use your talent in the arts, in mathematics, to find solutions for our societies. When we are given an opportunity to become a lawyer, use those law expertise to contribute positively into building a society which understands the law. If you are a musician, make music that mobilize society. As we engage in these topics, we'll be having more and more topics on the podcast where we discuss and have guests and try to deal with these issues because they are very much complex. So I think the end of the show, it shows that we tried something and it really worked. And for credit reasons, we want to take this opportunity and thank Brio Photography for sponsoring our first shoot, and we believe that it is a very nice program to have. Please do engage on our social media platforms, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and follow us everywhere where you see, and continue with the conversation and be an active young person who understands his role in society. Shout out.